Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of the Thrive Quail Forest podcast. I'm your host, Mark Stein. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects all of us, and fairly recently, for the ease of the availability of recycling and sustainability right here in Pinellas County and in Quail Forest. Whether you're a seasoned recycler or just wondering what goes on in that blue bin after it gets taken from your house, this episode is packed with insights that can make a real impact on our homes, community, and the environment. Please join me in welcoming Jasmine Scott, an environmental outreach specialist with Pinellas County Solid Waste. So she's a county employee. She's also joined today by Leslie Kaplan, an environmental outreach assistant. These two champions of sustainability are here to talk about recycling in Pinellas County and show us how small changes in our neighborhood can lead to a cleaner, greener future for everyone. So grab your reusable water bottle, settle in, and let's get the scoop on how we can all pitch in to protect the beautiful place that we live here in Oldsmar. Welcome to the Thrive Quail Forest podcast, Jasmine and Leslie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having us.
So let's talk about the two of you individually first and how you came to this work and what passions have led you here.
So I'll start off. This is Jasmine. I went to Loyola University Chicago. I graduated with an undergraduate degree in environmental science, and I moved to Florida not about 4 years ago. And I was looking for a way to use my degree, and I saw this job opening open up, and it was something interesting to me. And ever since then, I've just fell in love with the industry and really just become a garbage guru, as you could say.
Very good. Do you have that on your Facebook page, business page, Garbage
LinkedIn for
Guru?
sure. Yes.
And I don't hear a bit of Chicago accent, so I have to question that.
I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. So if you hear a little twang, that's where that comes from.
Okay, good. And I moved here from Louisville, Kentucky, and
Really?
lived there most of my adult life, if this part counts. So we're both transplants from there. Cool. Okay, so thanks for that background information, Jasmine. Let's go to Leslie. How
All
did you come
right.
about this work?
Well, I've always been into recycling. Live in the city of Largo. They've always offered recycling. So I've been recycling since I was a homeowner in 2000. So we're 25 years. Um, I have lived in Largo my entire life, Pinellas County native. I was a cake decorator for 20 plus years. I worked at Albertsons slash Safeway. Um, I knew that I wanted to get out of retail. So I was thinking, like, what am I interested in? What speaks to my heart? And I saw that St. Pete College had a sustainability management degree. So I started going to school while I worked retail, and it just gave me hope. I knew there was a future with some sort of degree. So I worked and went to school. Safeway closed. So I was really out of work. I had just got my associate's degree, declared my major. I was going to go into sustainability management. And I was in a position I didn't have to go back to work full time. So I went to school full time and I was able to volunteer. So I volunteered with the city of Largo, met a lot of great connections through volunteering. And then I met and connected with people from Keep Pinellas Beautiful. So I did an internship with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, met a lot of great people there. I actually got hired on part-time Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and I knew that I needed to get into an organization where I could get 40 hours. There was room for growth, had benefits. So I was just kind of searching around, and I the Pinellas County needed poll workers for the primary election of in August of 2020. So I went and I said, I'm going to go be a poll worker just for fun, really. So when I go to the polling place, there was all Pinellas County employees there. And, you're there for 16 hours with these people. And I was at the same table with somebody from solid waste. I had found out later that this person worked solid waste. And by the end of my shift, she said, Leslie, I have a position coming up at solid waste and I would love for you to apply. And I just felt like, wow. And then I had to look up like Pinellas County, what's solid waste? I really had no idea what this even was. So I did a little research. I applied and I got the job November 2020. So I think volunteering and meeting people in the industry that I was interested in really helped me land this job. And really, this is my dream job. I love being able to educate. I believe in what we do here. I want to help save, the environment. Like I said, I'm a native here, so this really is extra special to me to make sure that people in our community know the right way to like recycle or, how to dispose of hazardous waste. So it's really fulfilling for me to be in this position.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, for both of you. So, as I mentioned before we started the podcast, we're in Quail Forest neighborhood. Um, it's within East Lake Woodlands in Oldsmar, and our HOA negotiated a new contract with our waste hauler, and they offered us recycling and added that on so that the total price we're paying is even less than we were paying under the last contract. So adding recycling, curbside recycling, um, for a lower price. And obviously there's some benefits to waste haulers to eliminate some of the volume of the trash part and be able to recycle it. But I felt like the HOA did a wonderful job in negotiating that. So we now have curbside since right around the beginning of the year. And it looks like we're getting pretty good participation, maybe 30%. But I wanted to bring y'all on to talk more about recycling and educate us about it and see if we can boost some of the participation. So give us your best pitch. Jasmine, I think you want to start out, but give us your best pitch. And also let's not be Pollyannish about it. There are reasons why people don't recycle. And it's a little more effort, but let's talk about the pros and let's also acknowledge what some of the challenges or drawbacks are.
Sure. So with recycling, with really behavior change for humans in general, you always have to make sure that it's easy for someone to make that change. So by your condo association implementing a new recycling program, we need to make it easy for your folks to be able to recycle. So my question to you would be, does each person have their own bin? How far do they need to walk? Somebody may not be participating because they simply don't have an extra bin next to their trash can at their house. And it could take a minute to get up to the store to go get that. So reducing the barriers to participation is the first step. And someone also has to want to participate. So there's people like you, Mark, you were telling me before how you've always been a recycler, you're super passionate about it, you care about the environment. Sometimes people maybe have just never thought about it before. Maybe it's never crossed their mind. So I'm happy to come on here and explain some of the benefits to recycling. Number one is that it helps protect our local disposal capacity. So what that means is in Pinellas County, we only have one landfill. And we also, most of your garbage is going to a waste energy facility. So your garbage goes to waste energy facility to be burned, and then the leftover ash goes into the landfill. The ash takes up a lot less space. There's only one landfill in Pinellas, and if we didn't have recycling programs in Pinellas County, we would shave 20 years off of our landfill life. So instead of lasting us another 80, it would only last us 20. So that's number one, is that it helps save space. Recycling helps save space in our landfill. And then number two is maybe one that you've heard before, being that it helps save natural resources. So instead of, you may be thinking to yourself, well, if we have a waste energy facility in Pinellas County, can't I just throw my plastic bottle into the garbage and then it'll go be energy? Well, the answer is it's better to recycle it according to the EPA, or Environmental Protection Agency's waste management hierarchy, but also because when you recycle your things, you're taking an old thing and turning it into something new and keeping those resources in the loop in the economy. So if you put that into the garbage, it would just be, we would burn it and then the ash would go in the landfill and that resource would never be used again. So when you recycle, you're keeping those natural resources in the loop, and we don't have to mine for any new we don't have to mine for more resources. So those are the top two reasons I would say locally for Pinellas County, is that one, it helps save space in our landfill, and two, it also helps save natural resources. There's plenty of other benefits, but those are the top two that'll probably hit home or make the most sense for people.
Right. And I think we are the most densely populated county in Florida. I think I've heard that. Is that a true fact?
That is true, yes.
And it seems odd when you think about Miami, inner city Miami, but so we're here on this part of this peninsula and very high density and one landfill. That really surprises me. So we've got to be stressing it. And there are people moving here all the time because single family housing will get knocked down, a bunch of them, and then they'll build multifamily. So I'm sure we're growing in population. Now, the two hurricanes may have slowed that down a little bit from last year, but and you bring up an interesting point. There are about containers. There are people in the community that don't even have garbage cans. They'll put plastic bags out. The HOA tries to do what they can to discourage that. So very few people seem to have, the recycling bins, although I don't think those are ideal anyway. Most don't have lids. And if it's a windy day, the recyclables, especially the lighter ones, the bottles, can just blow out everywhere. I don't see that happening very often. One of the things that I have done, pardon me, is we have garbage pickup on Tuesday and recycling is on Wednesday. So I'm emptying out my main garbage can um, on Tuesday, and I just move the recyclables into it on Wednesday. So I don't have to purchase an extra bin. And we're all right off the road. I don't think anybody has to walk more than 30 feet to get to the road. So that part is not really a hassle. There are some communities, and I'll just put you on the spot, some communities who provide recycling bins. Is that something that your agency does?
So Pinellas County Solid Waste, which is my agency, a government agency that I work for, local government, does not provide collection of garbage or recyclables within Pinellas County. So the answer to your question is no. For individual homes or multifamily homes or even commercial properties, Pinellas County Solid Waste does not provide collection containers. That would be something that maybe you could reach out to your current provider, your current hauler for. And within Pinellas County, the way collection works is in cities, the municipality is responsible for the collection of waste, of mainly garbage, but then all cities have recycling programs also. And then unincorporated areas, which sounds like that's where you all are, is where you go out and you get, as like your HOA did, you went out and you got your own contract.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of any agency in the county, or are you aware of some of the providers that will also provide a bin.
Let's clarify which bin we're talking about, because I think there's a couple different types of bins in the recycling world. There's the bin maybe that you have in your home, like next to your recycling, your garbage bin. And so in terms of that, no, I don't know of any agency whether it's city or hauler or county, that offers, like an in-home recycling bin. So that's one of them. The second type would be a collection, like a one that opens at the top, and like your other garbage bin that's outside of your home that you maybe roll out to the curb. Generally, to my understanding, yes, a lot of the haulers and a lot of the municipalities will offer those to their customers. It just depends. Sometimes it depends though on the hauler. And then there's the larger collection. So at my multifamily complex, for example, that I live in Largo, we have an 8-yard dumpster for our garbage. So that would be another type of container. So I don't know if you wanted a lesson in garbage and recycling containers today, but those are the 3 different types. So I'm not sure. Hopefully that helped answer your question with which one and get us on the same page.
Well, I was thinking in particular, I didn't expect anybody to provide the big cans. And I think they're blue with a recycling symbol on them, maybe green. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention, but I'm thinking of just the bins that I don't think are the best, but the open bins that you see out on and it only holds, probably wouldn't hold a whole family's worth of recycling per week, but might hold an individual or a couple's recycling. So I was just thinking about that bin that's sort of the size of a file box.
Right. Yeah, that would definitely be something you would need to reach out to your hauler about and see if that's something that they offer through your existing contract, or if that would be an extra fee that they could provide.
Okay.
But they could provide them at an extra fee. But that's something you can certainly ask.
Okay. And we're planning to have a representative from the hauling company that also provides recycling. So I'll be sure to ask that. And the point I want to make about the containers is that, I'm not having to invest in another container, and we do have a lot of people on fixed income. I don't know that they absolutely can't afford an extra can, but it could be a burden to pay for that. So I think our delivery schedule really allows for it, and we have one of the big garbage cans, and our recycling fills up that big garbage can every week. So I think it is an easy solution to that dilemma, and most people have a garbage can. So anyway, so let's talk about the items, and I know you're not going to be familiar with exactly which item our hauler will take and which they will reject, and I will ask them when they come on the podcast. But in general, what are the items that are recyclable and which ones are not? And if you're not attentive to that and you mix it with a lot of things that are not accepted, do you foul the whole, uh, do you ruin the whole batch? Or do most haulers have pickers that go through and pick the obvious things out?
So the main items across all programs in Pinellas County, no matter where you are the paper and cardboard. So paperboard, cereal boxes, newspaper, envelopes, printer paper, cardboard like your Amazon boxes. So paper and cardboard, number 1. Number 2, plastic bottles and jugs. So your water bottles, your soda pop bottles, your milk jugs, your laundry detergent bottles, your shampoo bottles, those types of items. That's two. Number three would be metal food and beverage cans. So once again, soda pop cans or your vegetable cans or dog food cans. And then
So steel or aluminum.
any metal can,
Okay.
correct. Yep. And then we have glass bottles and jars. So like your beverages, your adult beverage containers, and sometimes sauce cans. And cartons are included in the paper. So those are the main four categories. Paper, all types of paper and cardboard, just plastic bottles and jugs, metal food and beverage cans, and your paper or glass bottles and jars.
You've educated me a little bit. I always thought that slick, and maybe I'm parsing it and I'm not incorrect, but what about the slick, glossy, full color ads and stuff, postcards that have a lot of pigment in it? Are those allowed to?
Yeah, that all of that's fine. Really the only thing when it comes to paper that you don't really want to recycle are like your greeting cards with glitter on them. You know,
Okay.
when you touch a greeting card and then you get glitter all over your fingers or even wrapping paper with the glitter all over it, that's really the only kind of paper you don't want to put in there. If you can rip it, it can go in your container usually.
And no shredded
Well,
paper.
and
No
that brings
shredded
up
paper. Thank you, Leslie.
another point. Increasingly, I'm getting certain pieces of mail. I think it's mostly credit card solicitations, and I have to, I can't tear it with my hand. So that's a form of plastic or something, and you have to cut them up with scissors. Would that be okay to put in there?
Generally, like your envelopes with a plastic window in it, that amount of plastic in with the paper isn't going to cause a problem. So you don't it should be okay as long as it's just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. And it seems like, if obviously you want to clean out the cans, bottles as much as you can, not have a quarter of a gallon of milk in the bottle. But invariably there's some leakage from cans and bottles and such. Doesn't it foul the paper, or they can just clean the paper and they deal with it separately so that it doesn't foul, the liquid doesn't foul the paper.
So you bring up a great point. Everything in your recycling bin should be relatively clean and relatively dry. So shake out the liquids, give it a quick rinse if you can. You don't have to wash your recyclables like you do your dishes. I do because I'm a crazy person, but you can but you can just give them a quick rinse, shake them out, and get as much as you can off of it, and then put it in your bin. If it's got a few drops of water onto your other paper in your bin, it's not a big deal. What's the big deal is if you were to leave your container out in the rain, or like you said, put an entire container worth of liquid in there. But otherwise, don't stress yourself too much about getting it bone dry.
Okay. And what types of things are not accepted? Like there's some, like styrofoam, or the styrofoam um, liners under meat or something, that kind of container.
Yes, correct. Styrofoam is not recyclable. The other top what we call as contaminants, or things that don't belong in your recycling bin, are plastic bags and bagged recyclables. So if you don't put your recyclables into a plastic bag and then recycle them, keep them loose in a container. So plastic bags, and that includes film, bubble wrap, anything that's stringy and could wrap around your arm, would need to be left out. And then any sort of yard waste, the food is all food and liquids would be another contaminant. Styrofoam, so no styrofoam. Leslie, help me out.
No clothing, no shoes, nothing clothing or anything that's like stretchy or a lot of people are wish cyclers. They want to put their Christmas lights in their recycle bin because they think somebody is going to separate that stuff at the material recovery facility where recyclables go. We just visited one not too long ago, the Waste Connections one in St. Petersburg, and we were there for maybe 30 seconds seeing the conveyor belt go by. We saw a large screen television go by. I saw couch pillows, shoes. It was just amazing to see that people had thrown that in their recycle bin. So you think, well, either they don't know any better or they just don't care. So part of our, you know, messaging here is to try to get to the hearts of people and educate them so when they know better, they do better. But mostly, yeah, the contaminators are the ones that the bags, the stretchy things, the wish cycling items. Recycling, it, like you said earlier, Mark, it takes effort. You need to do it the right way, or really, to put it harshly, don't do it. Don't wish cycle unless you know that that item goes in that bin. Just don't recycle if you're not willing to know what goes in the bins, because there's a lot of things are contaminants. And like we use that term wish cycling, I used to be a wish cycler. I would put my Tupperware, when your Tupperware gets stained from pasta sauce, I would collect all my stained Tupperware, put it in a grocery bag, and put that whole thing in my recycling bin, because I thought, I don't want to throw this away, this Tupperware. I just want it recycled. And the bag, I was keeping everything nice and neat for the recycle company. I was
Mhm.
doing everything wrong. So there's people out there right now that do that same thing because they just don't know, any better. So um, just if you're going to recycle, do it right. And there's plenty of resources, people to talk to. The Recycle Guide, go online. We're willing to give presentations, tours out here, and we will actually show you the do's and don'ts of recycling with real life everyday items. And people
Mhm.
really appreciate that.
One common thing that often is recyclable, but probably not by our haulers, would be batteries, um, from the small batteries to larger lithium batteries, um, definitely TVs, computers, those sorts of things. So I think people think that because certain items can be recyclable, then their hauler will do it.
Yeah.
Do you by chance have a list of items like batteries? Like I know that Best Buy has several bins to take batteries and certain small appliances, phones, those sorts of things. Um, I actually have my first cell phone, which was like a brick. You see them in 80s movies.
Mhm.
Um, and I have my first laptop, which had about two, uh, not even megabytes of RAM, just it was really small. But anyway, so do you have a list of places that take televisions, computers, those sorts of things?
We do, and it's online. It's accessible to anyone. It's pinellas.gov/where, as in where does it go search tool. It's an online interactive database and search tool for anything that you can think of that you're trying to get rid of. You go in, you type it into the search bar, and it'll give you all sorts of resources for places that you can take that thing for recycling or reuse or for disposal. So we have options for TVs, for rechargeable batteries, for computers, for laptops, cell phones, um, even paint, chemicals, all that stuff. We've got resources for it.
Can
And
you
I'll go ahead.
can you send us that link? I saw that Leslie showed it, but I'm not sure it's going to show up. So if you can send us that link so that we'll put that in the show notes, and and then they don't have to go find it on the website. We're really trying to make things easy here.
Yes, exactly. Make things easy, reduce barriers for folks so you can increase participation and get what you want. So yes, and I'll also send you a link to our recycle guide, which is at pinellas.gov/recycle. And that on the cover of that recycle guide are all the items that I mentioned earlier. So the top five: plastic bottles and jugs, metal food and beverage cans, paper, cardboard, and cartons, glass bottles and jars. And if anything outside of that, we like to say, I think it sometimes can get confusing for folks about, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do that. So what can I recycle? Just stick to those five, and anything outside of that, if you're ever in doubt, like Leslie said, it's best to just leave it out because you could be causing contamination. And I do want to go back to your very first question, the very first question to me, or one of the second question, when you said, what's recyclable? But the second part of your question is, what happens if can it ruin the whole load? And so I want to give a little bit more background as to why a lot of these things aren't recycled when we say don't do this and don't do that. Number one reason for the things that are on for what is recyclable is because those are the items that the local recycling sorting facilities can sort. So they have the machines and they have the resources, mainly it's machines, that can recognize those materials based on their physical properties and sort them, and then sell those materials to manufacturers to be made into new products. And as you can imagine, you may have also seen how different, well, why at home in Chicago can I do it this way, and here it's different? As you can imagine, not every single recycling facility was built in the same year, at the same time, with the same machinery. So machinery can be different. So that's why even from program to program within the same city, they can be different based on what machines are available to sort. But in general, that recycle guide, no matter where you are in Pinellas County, and really in general throughout the whole Tampa Bay area, those are the items that can be sorted and are sorted at local recycling facilities. Anything else outside of that, in general, is treated as contamination or garbage. That's number one. And number two, reason why. So machines and what they can sort of why that list is what it is for what's recyclable. And number two is because those are the materials that have value and are bought to the manufacturers and that are being made into new products. So not everything can be made into a new product. Like, for example, your styrofoam, you would have to melt it down, and it's just the way it is. It can't really be made into new things. It can, but it's pretty difficult. So those are the materials that are being bought. They have a commodity value. They are worth something amount of money, and they're being sold and they're being made into new products. That's why we have that list.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I just want to say real quick, Mark,
Yes,
can you hear me
please.
okay?
Anytime, jump in.
The people, like you mentioned earlier, TVs, cell phones, electronics, batteries, all those things can be recycled, but there's specific specialized companies that those items need to go to. You can't put that kind of stuff in your curbside recycling bin or those drop-off bins. The sorting facilities that your everyday home recyclables go to, they're not set up to sort your VCRs, your coffee makers, your batteries, cell phones. They're not set up that way. It wasn't designed that way. So there's where this effort, it's going to take another step to special handle those batteries, even your CDs, your CD players, your cell phones, TVs, all those things can be recycled, but you gotta figure out where to go, call the facility, make sure that they accept your item. There's a little bit of work that has to be done with those, but they definitely don't belong in your curbside bins. Stick to those 5 item types that Jasmine mentioned. The recycle guide lists them. We're going to send you the link to that recycle guide so you can share it with your community. And you're recycling right if you stick to those items that are on the recycle guide.
Okay, very good, very good. Let's talk about clothing for a moment because I think it's beginning to get controversial that a lot of clothing, if it's not really mint condition, if it is mint condition, there are plenty of places, Goodwill, um, Salvation Army, they'll take it. And it sells for a fairly high price
Mhm.
related to what they are. But there are a lot of those that are not in perfect shape. Maybe they have a stain, and they are bundled and sold as just scrap material. Um, so clothing is something that you need to send to Goodwill, shoes, hats, those sorts of things. It does take a little more effort, but people really like to use that, like to purchase that. And I'll tell you something that we do personally is um, the yard uh, guys that are mowing and all that. Most are Latinos, and we've had some things that were really good in good shape. We've got a teenager that outgrows everything really fast, and we'll just put it in a grocery sack and give it to them, and they're very happy to get it. And I notice a couple of people in our community will put a good TV, not a one that needs to be trashed, just out, not on a garbage or recycled day, and people will pick that up. Shelving, things that are useful. We're trying to, or we hope to get a um, give to a good home uh, part of our website where people could advertise, hey, I've got this, um, and be able to share it that way with people. Um,
Can I say something real quick? It just
please,
got me thinking here at
please.
work, here at Pinellas County Solid Waste, we do something very similar, but with just employees. We have a free table that's in our break room, and people will just bring like their oddball stuff. Maybe it's not enough to maybe go run it to Goodwill, but they'll put it on our free table right here in our break room. And it's so fun to be able to see what somebody brought in, and we put things on that table and we get to take things. It's just small, just our department here, but it's really neat to see that people are participating in that because really we want things. You want to make throwing things away your last resort. Try to give it away, reuse it, give it some sort of extra life, making throwing it away, like I said, your last resort, and certainly not recycling it wrong because you don't want to throw it away. So we want to avoid that wish cycling. But you just mentioned starting up that group for your community. Please do that because that might be a hit. I'm part of the local Buy Nothing group in Largo and Bel Air, and I love it. I see it all the time, and it makes my heart so happy because I'm like, everything that people are swapping and getting, that's avoiding landfill. It's avoiding garbage. It's avoiding, and it just makes me just so happy. I wish it was, worldwide people had the local Buy Nothing group. So if you can start yours in your community, that would be something really great. So
I would
Yeah,
love it.
another variation of that would be that we'd like to have people be able to share things. You know, nobody needs uh, a trimmer. Uh, we have our shrubs trimmed, but some people do their own yard work, and to be able to not have everyone have to have a blower um, or certain tools, or even indoor tools that we rarely use, like bread makers, juicers, those sorts of things, to be able to share them. And that's another way to reduce all this stuff going into landfills is to share it and not everybody have their own everything.
absolutely. That was another thing I wanted to bring up too, specifically about clothing and furniture, is that before it even comes into your home, I think a lot of us make smart buying decisions based on our budget. Um, but another thing to consider is when you buy something, specifically clothes or furniture, with the intention, maybe you spend a little bit more money, but with the intention that it's going to last you a long time and it's not going to need to be replaced in the next year or in the next 3 years. That's that's a smart decision, not only for the wallet, but for your wallet, but also for the environment too. Like there is a big rise now in fast fashion, as they like to say, where it's really cheap and it's good because you can get things that are on trend, but they're not built to last, and it's going to end up breaking, and you're going to have to throw it away potentially. So that's another thing too, thinking about the purchases that you're making. How long is this item going to last me? Do I really need this thing? Do I have something that I can use instead? And this just goes for anything. Do I have something I can use instead? And how long is it going to last me? What's the life cycle? What am I going to do with it when it's done? That's how I look at like the furniture in my house. I furnish my entire place with the exception of maybe 2 items, but I furnish my entire place with all reused stuff from consignment stores. And not only were the consignment stores cheaper, better for my budget, I got stuff that's going to last me a long time. And it's eclectic. It's a cool mix of stuff, and it makes me feel happy when I walk into it. So I just want to bring that up too,
Yeah.
thinking about what we're doing and the resources that we're acquiring before you even make it. And sometimes you're making that decision for your wallet, and sometimes it's not for the environment. But just bring it up that sometimes it can be for the environment too.
It can make your life lighter because all this stuff around us, I feel like it starts to own us rather than the other way around. Um, so, yeah, I like to declutter and minimize those things, especially um, electric power type things. And I'll mention another thing. Um, Sometimes it's more cost effective to buy the next level of an item, especially appliances. And I'll give you an example. We have one of the milkshake stirrers, um, and that's one handle and it's got several attachments. And we're on our third one now. And, they're about 20 bucks each. But I think if I go to the next level and spend 30 or 40, read the reviews on Amazon, then
Exactly.
then I'm not going to have to buy 3 or 4 because
Exactly.
you can't repair them or nobody will repair them. Um, and throwing them away is just adding to that. And you can't recycle them, I don't think, that sort of thing. So minimizing helps to, or buying a little better quality something and not the cheapest thing on Amazon.
When you don't, and then having to replace that thing, like you're saying. So, you end up replacing something 3 times or 2 times that cost you $20 instead of just buying the maybe a little bit better thing for the 40, for the 40 or $50. But sometimes we do want to save. I understand, cutting corners with prices, trust me. So,
And there's not always a direct relation between price and quality,
right,
so you
true.
can't depend on that. So what haven't we talked about? We've covered a lot of ground. What haven't we talked about that either of you would like to trumpet?
I would say we haven't gotten into the world of plastics, and I think that tends to be a pretty hot topic. One thing that I've heard a lot is, well, only 5 or 6% of plastic gets recycled. That's a number that's been floating out there recently. And we like to call attention to the fact that your plastic bottles and jugs, notice that on the recycle guide, when you take a look at it later, the only type of plastic that we have on there is your plastic bottles and jugs. Now, Waste Connections might take other types of plastic containers, but just a couple more, not all of them. So when you think about all the plastics that are out in the world, I mean, I can look at my computer, my keyboard, even my shirt made out of polyester, all of the plastics that are out in the world versus just those plastic bottles and jugs. Those are the items that are getting made into new products, the plastic bottles and jugs. Everything else is generally you can put it in your trash can or reuse it, or that's where we try to, reduce your use and then reuse and then recycle. That's the hierarchy where that comes in.
And they end up in the environment. They end up in our lakes, roadsides. Okay, here's a micro example. The cheese that comes in a little plastic container, it's got a plasticky type cover to it, or I usually throw that lid thing away, but is that small container recyclable?
Generally, is it a plastic? We ask ourselves the question, is it a plastic bottle or a jug?
Okay. So everything else is probably not.
If you're looking at throughout all Pinellas County, so if you're thinking about what am I recycling when I'm at work, what am I recycling when I'm in school, potentially, what am I recycling, no matter where you are, at an event in Clearwater and you live in Oldsmar, no matter where you are in Pinellas, only the plastic bottles and jugs. Your program could accept that feta cheese container that you have, but in general, it's best to just stick to the plastic bottles and jugs, because we know that those are the things that are valuable. Those are the things that are being made into new products. And those are the things that are being sorted at recycling sorting facilities, plastic bottles and plastic jugs.
And even the water bottles, there's controversy around those that there's some outgassing that happens, and certain groups suggest not refilling them, uh, those water bottles. So it's probably best to get your own water bottle, Yeti type water bottle or something. Yeah, we've got the same one here. Um, so that you're not, that's reducing and not even putting it into the recycling area.
Exactly. You're avoiding, when you use something over and over again, plastic is made out of oil. Oil is a natural resource, like the same, like oil, petroleum. So when you don't use a plastic item, you are avoiding you're not using your dollars to support that thing. So another thing you could do, if because you may say, well, I can get a plastic bottle, but I don't like the tap or whatever. I have at my home, I have one of those water coolers that I get the 5-gallon jugs from Publix and I refill them or I trade them in. If you don't want to do that, you can get, even just getting the jugs, like the gallon jugs, is better than getting the bottles because you use less. And Brita filters are also an option, or not Brita specifically, but water filters. So there's plenty of options that you can think about if it's important to you for ways to reduce your waste of plastic water bottles specifically.
And there are some filters that go right on the spigot of your sink that will filter the water. Let me plug something and then we'll wrap up. It's sort of a passion of mine. It's outside of our scope, but related, and that is EV batteries. A lot of people will say, don't buy an EV because the batteries go into a landfill, and they're not recyclable. But now I can only speak to Tesla, that one of the founders of Tesla left Tesla about 10 years ago to focus, I think it's Eberhard, to focus exclusively on recycling of the batteries. And they are able to recycle 99% of all of the content, including the shell, of all that content. So it's a myth that that is not recyclable and is causing shortages of rare earth materials and those sorts of things, at least for Teslas. Uh, and there is an ecosystem that's being built around that recycling. Because for sure, if we're just draining those, especially the rare earth minerals, we're going to deplete that. It's got to be finite. in the short term. But if that stuff can be recycled, which it can, and is being recycled, then you're not adding to global warming by driving an electric car. It's totally green. So, all right. Thanks for letting me make that plug. Well, this has been really valuable. I truly appreciate both of you coming on. Give us contact information if anyone wants to contact you with questions, either of you, and we'll put all this in the show notes. Actually, we have your email addresses, so we'll put those in the show notes. But go through website, phone number, best ways to contact you.
Sure. So if you want to email us a question, the best way to reach out to us is recycle@pinellas.gov. We have someone monitoring that email inbox every day, and we respond within 24 hours. When I say someone, I mean Leslie or me, mostly Leslie. And so email us, recycle@pinellas.gov. If you have any questions, give us a call, 727-464-7500. Or you can visit us online, pinellas.gov, and search solid waste or recycle. We'll come up. Come out for a tour, see our
Yes.
recycle guide, see our take a virtual tour. We've got one of those online too. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Leslie. Anything else to add?
So I am going to send you the recycle guide link. I'm going to send you the link to the Where Does It Go search tool, and I'm going to send you the link to our virtual tour. And
Okay.
we have an educational resources page on our website, which has wonderful information, why recycling is important, how recycling works in Pinellas County. It's all on the left-hand side of this educational resources page. It's just a wealth of information. It's easy to see. It asks the questions, gives an answer. If you have any questions, just email that recycle@pinellas.gov email address. Like we said, we get back to people within 24 hours. Definitely come out for a tour. It's eye-opening out here. We can, request a presentation if you wanted, if you got a large group of people together and wanted, to ask some questions. I think it would be wise to have your Waste Connections representative be present for one of these, because he's going to know, he'll be able to tell you exactly what Waste Connections wants in those recycling bins. But yeah, I mean, reach out if we can help in any way. We would love to. That's what we live for here. So please use us. Let us help you.
Great. Will you also send the subdomain link, uh, not only pinellas.gov, but to your recycling or to your department?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that'll bring up that part of the website and we're not
Yeah.
having to,
Yeah. I'm
uh,
going to do the
we're
educational
making it
resource.
easy for our people here.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to say one more thing that I have found with the people that we talk to. A lot of people want to recycle because they see that chasing triangle on the bottom of their plastics. A lot of people automatically turn their plastic container over and they're looking for that recycle symbol and they think that's automatically going to go, it's supposed to go in their bin. That chasing triangle with the number in there, it's called a resin identification code. It's just telling you what type of plastic this was made of, not necessarily that it's supposed to go in your recycling bin. So the recycle guide doesn't recycle by numbers. We want you to recycle by the size and the shape. So Waste Connections may recycle by numbers on plastics. Definitely ask them about that recycle symbol on the plastic containers, because that's a huge misconception. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I think it leads to contamination, because people automatically, like I said, they're looking for that recycling symbol, but that's not really what that is. So just kind of touch on that with Waste Connections when you have them on your podcast.
Great. Well, thank you
Okay.
again both so much.
You're very
This is
welcome.
very valuable information. I learned a lot, so I'm sure some of our folks that are not that familiar with it have learned a lot as well.
Good.
So let me just wrap up. Stay with me here. So thanks again to Leslie and Jasmine from Pinellas County Solid Waste for sharing their excellent knowledge, their passion, and their tips for making recycling easier and more effective in our daily lives. Remember, sustainability starts at home, and everybody can do that. every can, bottle, cardboard box that we recycle adds up to real change. So let's keep doing our part, and let's see if we can see more recycling bins out at the street on Wednesdays to really improve adoption. So if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like it, subscribe, share the link with your Quail Forest neighbors. And thanks again for tuning in to the podcast. We'll be sure to pick up the contact information for Leslie and Jasmine down in the show notes. And if you want to find out more about Thrive Co-Living Communities, go to cleverly named Thrive Co-Living Communities, plural.org. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.